broadcast, and I'm going to ask all of you that who are coming on. Please make sure you comment right below this video. Share this on your Facebook timeline. Maybe tag somebody out of your friend list. And you never know, probably someone in your friend list probably needs to hear this, and they will be encouraged, inspired today by testimony. So I have a very wonderful guest. Her name is Amy Sutherland. She's a talk show host, and she's an actress. She wears so many hats. So I'm gonna let her, break the code. So I'm gonna bring her on. Amy today, she is, although she lives in Georgia, but she is in Michigan at her grandma's house. Beautiful. You can see that behind. That's not a green screen. That is real actually happening, right?
Yes.
So here over to you, Amy. Please, first of all, tell us who you are.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much, Adnan, for having me. It's an honor to be with you today. Yeah, so I actually live in Georgia, but I'm still home for the holidays here with an extended stay, and I'll be heading back to Atlanta tomorrow. But I was born and raised in Michigan, and I've lived in Atlanta for, I think, 6 years now, going on 6 years. And yeah, I have a wide variety of background, but the Lord is so good at connecting the dots and bringing it all together. And so right now I am a co-host on the Christian View. I also have a podcast on the Charisma Podcast Network, and I write mostly prophetically, some other articles as well. Just released a new word on Friday for the new year. And so that's a little bit about myself. I was pursuing acting just because I felt like that's what the Lord wanted me to do. And then he really kind of changed things a few years back. And my focus is on the church and just being called to the church to prepare the bride. So that's where I'm at.
Wow, wonderful. That is good. So I want to first of all get you a little bit talk more about actress. So how old were you, and or when did you decided to pursue the actress, and what did you had in mind, and how far you wanted to go? Did you reach that far?
Oh, that's a great question. If I reached, you know, um, it's great to have goals, and I think for me, if you don't go for the very top, then what's the point? So of course, I think for me, I thought, sure, let's strive to have an Oscar. Why wouldn't you, right? If you're pursuing acting. Um, but for me, actually, back when I was in Bible college, I graduated from Maryland Hickey Bible College. I would do these little monologues for churches. And so the pastor would speak on a subject, and my friends would write, and I would perform monologues to just help illustrate the sermon. They were called illustrated sermons. And so I did a lot of that. I auditioned for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts twice. I was accepted by invitation twice. And I just felt that like the Lord was closing a door. And as a matter of fact, the first time I was had graduated from Bible college, was working in the prayer center at Maryland Hickey's, and was packed my car, doing all the right things, thinking I'm going off to California to go to the academy, and just door after door was shutting. And for 2 weeks, I drove around with my car packed, thinking I'm not going to not go because of a lack of faith. And the Lord spoke to me so clearly, which has really been a marking for my entire testimony. And he said, die to your dreams and visions so that I can resurrect them. And I'll never forget it. One of my supervisors from the prayer center was with me in the prayer room. And she really prayed me through that time, because it was a big death to me. But fast forward, I did things for the church. I died to it. I did all of that. Then the Lord kind of brought it back into my life. Now, in elementary school, I used to do the school plays and things like that, but I was really embarrassed. So it was like the more healing I got as an individual, the better actor I was, if you will. For years, I studied with different coaches, and I was on television shows, movies. I was just in a film that was in theaters this past Christmas, Farmer and the Belle Saving Santaland. Really wasn't about Santa, for those of you Christians who don't prefer him. It was about a pastor. So anyway, got to throw that in there for the Christians. But yeah. It really was my mission field, and I knew that. But in over 2009 and 2010, I went to Heidi Baker's school in Mozambique, Africa. And there, right before I left, the Lord said, you'll be doing more acting when you come back to the States. But when I was there, I thought, Lord, I just want to be a missionary. I want to do whatever pleases you. I want to win the most people for you. But he spoke to my heart and he said, with me being in the creative arts, I would reach more people doing that when I came back. And so I thought I was being obedient, and I ended up coming back, and I was, and that took me on an interesting trail. One thing leads to another. I won't go through all those steps, but I started off by doing background work and just all the years of training put to work, but I still started humbly, and then ended up on TV shows, national commercials, film. And it was in 2016 when I moved to Atlanta, and that's when I actually started to do more faith film. That year prior, I was in a very well-known Christian thriller, and that did really well globally, won over 70 laurels. And anyway, once I got to Atlanta, though, that's when I really started working with the faith-based community. And there I ended up winning 4 Best Supporting Actress awards, several nominations. And so the Lord was excelling me in my gifting. However, I still felt this kind of pull and this separation, and I wasn't sure what that meant. But even prior to 2020, when things started to shut down, that's when I really, about a year or two, I felt like this, I don't know how to describe it other than just a turning in me, that he was doing something so much deeper. He was speaking to me about revival, and he was already separating me from really so much focus in the entertainment world. And now in retrospect, I can see why. And I just really want to use my giftings for him and always have. However, he spoke to me very specifically at the beginning of 2020, and he said, the enemy isn't hiding anymore, and neither should you be. And I really felt like that was the thing that really helped me with my turnover to really just go forward with who I am, as a woman in Christ, and the giftings that I carry, and just my calling. And I was an undercover missionary because I was in secular television too. And so, I would pray with people, pray for healing. But as you know, like, you can't fully express certain things. And now, particularly, Set Life is completely different after having the pandemic. And so it wouldn't be conducive to who I am at all. So I'm really okay with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I understand very good that when God, there's a purpose of God for
Mhm.
each and every one.
Yeah.
And we all go through a process of getting refined. That's what I can say. Like, if you want to have a pure gold, that has to go through fire to be refined. I'm sure like there has been in your life turns where you've been felt like you're being refined, you're being cultivated for the better.
Mm-hmm.
And each individual experience you had, Amy, that really got you more closer to where you were going. Do you believe that? Is that what happened? Because where you were headed, every single step you went to Mozambique, had that experience, and you
Mm-hmm.
had, when you're planning to come back to United States, you had that planned. So things, each and every step that you took is just led you to go more closer to your destiny.
Absolutely. And wherever I was, and to be honest, I got a lot of kind of flack from some people because they were used to me. Like, when I graduated from Bible college, I was offered 3 pastoral positions, and then you go on the missions field, and then you're pursuing acting, and people kind of don't understand the journey, and they're like, well,
Yes.
are you an actress, or are you a missionary, or are you, what are you going to do? And my parents all along are just like, marry a pastor. So so anyways, it's an interesting story in that way. And you're absolutely correct. The Lord absolutely refined me and every part in it. But he was so part of this story in each section. And of course, we look back and we wish we could maybe do certain things differently. That's natural. But when you say the refiner's fire, I feel like fire literally marks my life. And when I went into this season of consecration at the beginning of 2020, I was going on a 40-day fast, and I ended up on a 4-month fast.
Wow.
And yeah. And through that, I was actually starting to get that summer, and even just prophetically, we kind of experience things in our bodies and vicariously and dreams and visions and all that. But I would have fire red down from my elbows up to my hands.
Wow.
And I was just covered in red. And I was going through the fire, and the Lord was showing me that. He was showing me that I was going through the fire. And even years ago, it was my uncle actually, who's very strong in the prophetic. When I was in my early 20s down at the altar, he was praying for me, and he said, you carry the fire and you run people through the fire. And that's really what I do and what I've done through the years. I've tried to anyway. And I think too, kind of side note, if you carry a strong message, it can be difficult to convey that, like a John the Baptist, like a repentance and a fire message. And I try to encourage people that the fire is good for us. We need that refiner's fire. And really, it is a message, my life message. It sounds so funny, but it is of death. And the enemy tried to use it in the natural, but in the spirit, the Lord has redeemed it. And we live out of dying to ourselves. That's when we truly have life and yielding to that fire. So yielding and surrender has been a huge portion of my testimony. We talked a little about it before, but I was in a car accident when I was nearly 5, and I lost my older brother and my sister, and I survived.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you exactly after that question. Sorry to cut you, but you had a accident. Your brother was there, your parents were there, and I'm just very fascinated about that story. I'm sure people who are watching will find it very helpful and very encouraging to them, that how you went through that crash, and you never lose your faith, but actually it helps build up your faith. So people who are watching on YouTube, please continue to share, guys. You can share in YouTube community, you can share on Facebook, and people who are watching on Facebook, please share on all across platforms. Let's get our audience maximized here. So here, over to you, Amy. What happened in that car accident that changed your life?
Yeah, well, I could tell you everything about that day. I have a interesting memory. But we were taken to church when we were young. Our father took us faithfully. My parents were divorced when I was 2. And I was already going to heaven at this point. We would go into my dad's room in the morning and tell him our dreams. And I had been to heaven a couple of times, had dreams about heaven, had angelic encounters. And my sister, actually, she was not quite 7 when she passed, and she had led a man to the Lord right before she passed away. And so it's really wild, when you look at it now after all these years, just to see the marking of the Lord on my life. And the enemy tried to use that and to say, that I had survivor's remorse and I was guilty that I survived. So I carried a lot of guilt. I was also blamed for the accident. My mom had been drinking, and unfortunately, sometimes, broken people, they say things out of their brokenness. And so, she's
So your mom was drinking and she was the one driving the car.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And she's now has a good relationship with the Lord, and, forgiven her and all of that. And we've forgiven. But those things, unfortunately, kind of stay with you. So, but the Lord with me right after that, I was actually at my aunt's house swinging alone outside, and I had my first out of body experience, and I saw the Lord in the sky. And I went and I flew out of my mouth, and I met him, and he told me that my brother and my sister were with him. And so he told me everything was going to be okay. And I told my dad about the encounter, and I said, Jesus, he looked new, like a shiny nickel. And, it was really fun because when I was I don't know, in my early 20s, like yesterday. I'm just kidding. I was reading a book by James Gall, and he said in that book that most adults describe having an out-of-body experience as flying out of their mouth. And so it was just confirmation to read after all those years. And that's how the Lord has all the time worked with me, which is, kind of just my journey. It looks a little different, but it's very much a sign. I'm kind of like a sign, if you will,
Mhm.
like the things that happen in my life or are very signs like. So for me, I had to still grow up because we have emotions that need to be tended to. But in the journey of being free from my emotions too, and receiving my healing in my own spiritual journey, I was very much spiritually aware. So my healing actually was opposite of what people encounter. Maybe people are well in their emotions and they're not redeemed spiritually or don't have an understanding spiritually. But for me, I had a lot of understanding spiritually, but I needed healing in my soul. So, because when we are sinned against, the wages of sin is death. And so we still have to redeem that part of us. Now, within that redemption, it's just been amazing, because what the enemy meant for evil, even on my own life, to mark me with a spirit of death, now I yield to death, but in a different way. It's I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. And I actually had another encounter regarding that, if you want to hear it. So
Sure. I would love to hear another encounter. We have plenty of time, Amy. And I'm
okay.
sure people can get more and more information and the testimony and encounter what's going on. You have a lot of things to share. You do a podcast, you're a television host, you're travel the world, and so many things. So tell me about that encounter that you had. What was that kind of encounter?
Yeah, well, it was not this past summer, but the summer before. So the summer of 2020, after I had come out of that 4-month fast, and
Yeah.
the beginning of 2020, I've always carried a prophetic gifting, and of course it's grown over the years. But I mean, I was giving prophetic dreams to adults since I was a little girl, before I even remember. Now, I had this encounter because the Lord was growing me and teaching me through a different level of spiritual warfare. And so he baptized me in a new tongue. And I was in my room praying one day.
Uh-huh.
And all of a sudden I look down. And again, this is the summer of 2020. And I look down and I see, not in the spirit, but with my physical eye, I see another hand in my hand. So, and it looks kind of like what you would see translucent, but it had nail marks on the inside. And I just rebuked myself. I said, "Oh my gosh, you are not the healer, Amy." And I was looking at myself and kind of rebuking myself. Um, and then as I settled in, it was like the Lord revealed to me, "No, this is me. This is what it means. Christ in you, the hope of glory." Christ is the spirit of the living God, is literally inside of us. So if we could
Yes.
just get a hold of that, then we can realize how people healed shadows, how we will do the greater works. See, it's not that we do necessarily greater works than Jesus, just on his time on earth, because he's the Alpha and the Omega. He's the beginning and the end.
Come
I'm
on.
very defensive when people say that, because I'm like, no, he's the Lord. No one can be greater than him. But that revelation of Christ in you, the hope of glory. And again, I saw it with my physical eye, which was just wild. It was not in the spirit. And so that encounter really helped me. And then from that point on, I actually started moving more in deliverance and miracles through different speaking engagements and ministry time. So, the Lord will, I feel like he's even bringing more, which is part of the word that I just released. He's bringing us into a time of not just knowledge, but experience. We're going to
Yes.
know the Lord through experience. And these things, not to get off on weird tangents, but they become part of you, and it helps you fully understand and know him. And it's really from a place of intimacy, which goes back to really dying to ourselves and being in the refiner's fire, like you mentioned. Yeah.
Yes. So, tell me about your podcast. What do you talk about on the podcast? You do every, I think, week, right? Or 7 days a week, or you know.
That would be wonderful, 7 days a week. No. Um, so the problem, I'm a little behind the game, but I'll just say I'm gonna brush off that slack in the new year. Um, but Marilyn Hickey's on there, and I actually have several episodes, but they're in post. But what I'm speaking about is revival, interviewing different people. But really, the heart of it is transformation, Adnan, because the whole goal is to look like Christ, to receive the full gospel. I believe we've received as a church a non discipled, watered down gospel for so many years. And
Yeah.
it's time that we really arise and truly shine and be the children of light. You know, in Romans 8, where it says creation is groaning for the mature sons and daughters to be revealed. That
Absolutely.
word revealed there in the Greek means to take the lid off. So it's time to take the lid off, be the mature sons and daughters. So really, honestly, it's about bringing us back to this simple gospel, the Acts church,
Yeah.
and running. Like, what did they know? They had something that we've lost all these years. So it's sort of a discovery. It's called The Long Way Home, by the way, because it's on that journey and the long way home to our heavenly home, you know, of becoming the transformed. So it's about becoming for the Lord, which we all should be being transformed, as the word says, from one degree of glory to the next.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And although you are um actress, you've been a missionary overseas, and you a television host. What is your passion? What is, if we boil down to one thing? What is your passion? What drives you each and every day?
You know, I feel like it's gotten narrower, to be honest, but just really knowing the Lord, you know, just knowing him, becoming like him, loving him well. That's my passion. And from that place, you know, if media, I love media, that's great. But really, it's to share that love with other people, to see them be free and be the best versions of their self for him. Media is a wonderful vehicle. I feel like it's the Lord's really going to use it in the end times to really reach all the unreached people groups. However, you know, before that, it's just becoming the transformed for him. I need to look like Jesus. Yeah. He's my passion.
Absolutely, I love it. I think that is the most humble thing you said out of all the conversation. Because becoming, like, constantly running after the cross, and also be like him, and follow the footstep of Jesus. I think that's the 2022 message. What you're gonna do different? What do you want your life to look like? It is when we pursue him, when we just run after the mark, when we try to improve ourselves, develop ourselves, and also grow in the relationship of our Christ. And that's the end of the day. That's what matters.
Mhm.
All the other things that coming in your way, these are merely things that what Bible talks about. First follow the kingdom of God, first follow him, and every single thing shall be added. You're not limited to the one dot or one. I really love Bishop TD Jakes talk about, people know me as a pastor or bishop, but before that I was a entrepreneur, producer, executive director, and
Yeah.
wearing so many different hats, and Arthur, and all these things. And same, all these things I can say, say in a one thing. I see all these things in you. You're a television host, and you're writing a book, or you wrote already, right? I think you are writing a book. I'm sure.
Writing. Yeah. Yeah. It's still in the making. Yeah.
It's still in the making, and I'm sure you will have is so much to say in that book, right?
Yeah, the Lord actually gave me another title last night for another portion of another book, and it's really I'll say this much, whatever we do, like you said, striving. Ephesians 6 says that we fight not against flesh and blood, powers, principalities, rulers, darknesses of this air. We know that. But, something I started sharing a couple years ago, a different revelation the Lord had given me regarding is right before that. Paul says, be empowered through your union with him. So first, before we can go into battle, we need to be empowered through our union with Christ, which comes from, living in that secret place with him, being dwellers, covenant keepers, all of that. Now, we have to live, though. This is the thing. There's so much coming at us right now.
Yes.
The Lord had given me a dream. This is actually when I was doing auto show. I was a public spokesperson. I was representing Lincoln. I'm speaking in front of thousands of people about the car. And I would go up to speak, and I couldn't get the words out. And it was still before the big crowds came. It was in the press days. And I was like, Lord, what's going on? And I was having such a hard time. And I was in a city in Philadelphia, actually. And the Lord gave me a dream. And I'm not going to go into super details, but in the natural, in real life, right before we would enter in the big conference center, whatever it was called, there were these several group of men who were known for having power, and they were very demonic. And it was a lot of word curses going out and a bunch of different wonky stuff. Well, anyway, the Lord showed me those people. And then I was ascending in the air, and I just kept ascending. And I went through the power lines.
Wow.
And once I got through the power lines, and I was in this whole new realm, and he showed me that I had to get above the power lines. And so from that dream, which was probably at least 10 years ago now, or about 10 years, I my friends even catched on. It's oh, we got to be above the power lines, because I say it so much, because it's the power, it's living above the power line, and am I perfect at it? No, not at all. But that has been something he showed me 10 years ago. And that's one of the books. It's living above the power lines. It's living above that place. It's being that person, goes back to our consecration, because as Psalm 24 says that we have to, who can ascend the hill of the Lord? He who has clean hands and a pure heart.
Yes.
So that comes through consecration, a daily devotion to him. And, I don't mean to preach to the choir, because you all know this, but in the word the Lord gave me for this coming year, it is a renewal of coming back to the Lord out of revelation. We need to be the church who is on fire for him. We can't be the church of Ephesus that lost its first love. So, and actually that word there is a Greek word that a Greek man would use to a woman he wanted to marry. So the Lord's literally saying to us right now, I want to marry you, but you've lost your first love. Come back to me. I want to marry you, which is beautiful. So
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Well, Amy, thank you so much for taking your time. I know we are running out of time, although you have so many other things to share too, what God actually doing in your life and what has done. But I want to appreciate you for taking the time and sharing your testimony, your passion for missions, your desire to be like Christ and humble yourself and also pursue your passion. And what an honor for us to even have this conversation. Seems like the time that we were talking is like a snap on the finger. It just passed by, with a blink of eye. But I want to appreciate you, everybody. Although if you don't know Amy Sutherland, she's a talk show host. She's an actress, and also, if you would like to connect her, you have a page, Amy Sutherland. It's a public page. They can like that page. Do you also have a YouTube channel?
Well, what I would do to keep up is actually, it's on my website, which is ablazeglobalproductions.com.
Perfect. Yeah. ablazeglobalproduction.com.
Yeah.
So you have there, if people want to view your podcast, how can they view your podcast?
You can go to Charisma, Apple, Spotify, anything, and look up The Long Way Home.
Wow.
And or you can go to my website, and it's on there under a section called podcast.
Wonderful. So long way home from Michigan to Atlanta. Is that what it's mean?
You know, our long way home of loving Jesus, becoming transformed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. God bless you. And you have a beautiful day. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Also, make sure you continue to share. And if somebody just popping up right now and they just missed the entire conversation, I'm going to ask you to, you can go back, watch the interview. It's going to archive on Adnan Maksud Live YouTube, on CTN Houston Facebook page, also Adnan Maksud Facebook page. So please continue to comment. If you have a question and want to reach out to me, please do. I'll be very happy to hear from you. It will be my honor to, pray for you if you have any prayer requests. But thank you so much for coming on. God bless you abundantly and exceedingly. May 2022 be a year of prosperity for you. Thank you so much, Amy. God bless you and have a beautiful day.
Thank you.